KGRA Radio and Pop Culture Minefield presents Dangerous Military Nerds. Dangerous Military Nerds. They're just like regular nerds, only dangerous. And now, your hosts, Don Ecker and Gerry Kissell.
He really is hard on that Ecker.
Kissell. I always just call you Kissell, but
Kissell.
Hey,
a lot of people do. They get away with it because I don't care. But
hey, you know what today is, right? This is Dangerous
Pearl Harbor Day.
Pearl Harbor Day.
That's right.
Exactamundo.
It is also Ash Wednesday. And because it's Ash Wednesday, I'm raising a little cane.
All right.
For
Gary's playing with his toys.
I always play with my toys during the shows. You just don't see it. It's military time here at Pop Culture Minefield and KGRA Radio. Don Ecker and I do a little show called Dangerous Military Nerds. And yes, it's true. We're just like other nerds, just dangerous. And good old Martine was like, I don't think it's a good idea to be in today's climate. And I'm like, fuck it. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, well, you know, life's a bitch, and then you get sunburned and die. So
that's
what
right.
Are you gonna do?
But today's guest is none other than well, I like to call him a friend of mine, but I don't think he admits to it. Is the amazing Chuck Dixon. I'm going to bring you up and put you in the numero uno position, and then we're going to do this shit. Boom, baby. Look at that. You're rocking it out, Chuck.
Yeah.
Chuck's having some camera problems with StreamYard, so he's going to be off camera, but he'll still sound pretty sexy. And I was sharing with someone last night that, being friends with you actually cost me a job.
I wouldn't be a first.
No. And you know who it was. It was the head of Marvel. Because at the time, I can't say their names, but the guy that looks for new talent for Marvel.
Oh, that guy.
He was contacting me. They were sexing me up, going to bring me in, do some military action stuff, non-superhero stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all into that. And then it went silent. And so I asked the dude's cousin, can you find out what happened? And they called me back and says, you can't say I told you, but apparently there's some guy that is the head of the comic company, and he apparently doesn't like somebody that you work with and are friends with. And I went, who? And he said, Chuck something. I went, Chuck Dixon. Fucking Chuck Dixon.
Yeah. Well, I'm not blacklisted at Marvel. They just won't. They actually said he's not blacklisted. He'll just never work here again.
Yeah, he'll never work here again. It's just not official.
And you won't fucking ever eat lunch in this town again, bud.
No. I mean, how many times have I heard that?
Right. So what did you do? You went off and you did SpongeBob and The Simpsons.
Yeah, for better pay.
Hell yeah. And that shit was good too. I read some of it, man.
Hey, Chuck, did you ever work with Dwight Schultz?
No, I'm aware of Dwight Schultz, but no, I've never worked with him.
Oh, he did. I'm not quite sure how long. He did one of the characters on SpongeBob.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. But yeah,
what did he do?
I can't remember which one he did. He was a recurring character, but I can't remember which guy.
Right. Well, we were pals for years, and then kind of drifted apart. So yeah,
he's an awesome guy.
He played. I'm trying to find out who he played on there. Dwight Schultz.
Well, he was Howling Mad Murdoch on the A-Team.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
And Lieutenant Broccoli on Star Trek, huh?
Right. Does he
Barkley.
still have a talk show?
Does he? I don't know.
Yeah, he had one for a few years. I listened to it all the time.
He's one of the few Hollywood conservative voices out there. For a while, we had the gentleman from Babylon 5.
Jerry Doyle. He filled
Yeah.
in for Doyle a number of times.
Yeah,
Before
right.
I
Jerry
love Doyle, man.
Jerry passed on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Which
a damn
was really a
shame.
shame.
Yeah. But and I used to listen to his show. I loved it when he got to go into a fighter jet and he broadcast that getting to go in a fighter jet. Like, hell yeah, wish I could do that. I've been knocked down by a fighter. I got knocked down by an F4 Phantom. I was sitting on top of my M113 eating. And I heard a sound and my head turned over the tree line, and that it hit before, because it was moving so fast that the roar came after it knocked me off the vehicle, threw my food everywhere.
Well, you ain't lived till you had one come in and drop snakes and nape, boy. That was something.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in Vietnam, Chuck. I think I told you that. And he was in the thick of it, man, in 72. So that was when things were really starting to go south for us.
We got overrun. Yeah, you might say that.
You know, what do they say? Dinks in the wire. Dinks in the wire.
Many.
What did you say, Gary? All campaigns on
What branch were you in, Don?
Army.
Okay.
Yeah, we're both what do you call it? Dog faces, doughboys, Joes, grunts,
dumbasses
that volunteered. He's like my cousin Larry, who we all called Gomer, because during Vietnam he volunteered to go over. So everybody in the family called him Gomer. Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, you know, come to think of it, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. You said, well, you were drafted.
Well, I thought you were.
No.
Yeah.
I enlisted.
No, I tell you, in the middle of the Vietnam War, enlisting, it takes some brass balls, man. It really does.
It did. It did.
But Don and I've been, watching a lot of films, and one of the films we watched recently, both kind of disappointed with it, was The Longest Beer Run Ever, by one of I forget the brothers. It did Me, Myself, and Irene. And so I thought it was going to be better than it was. And in the end, it ended up being one of those crappy, overly didactic scripts where it's like, let's come down on the war and get overly political instead of just telling the story.
It was a true story. It was a true story. And the guy that, I knew those people. I got the book.
Did you read the book or see the movie, Chuck?
Oh,
no, I've never even heard of it until this moment.
It's a true story.
War movie.
It's a
true story.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the book is great, but and there's a documentary on YouTube put out by Pabst Blue Ribbon, I think it was, produced it, because that was the beer I think he took with him to take to his buddies. He snuck over there into Vietnam to bring all of his buddies beer.
Wow.
A beer. Yeah.
Like they couldn't get beer in Vietnam. I thought that was one of my favorite moments. Like,
well, no, the whole trip was okay. During that time period, if you were around then, you know what the anti-war protest movement was all about.
Oh yeah.
And the guy
not in my neighborhood,
Chicky,
but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, the guy that did the book, Chicky is his name, basically had been a Marine before Vietnam. Okay. Came back, was a merchant seaman. All right. And he was in the neighborhood bar. And the guy that ran the bar, they called him the colonel. I think he might have been retired military. But they were all in there, half in the bag, raging and bitching about the protesters. And somebody said, hey, we ought to send them over a beer. Let them know that we appreciate them. And Chucky said, I'll go. So
I'll go.
He did. This
Wow.
crazy bastard went.
And he was over there for a while. And he only brought one change of clothes. No change of clothes. He just had what he was on. And it was like all ratty, so bad that they had to give him clothes to wear by the end of it.
Wow.
And then his ship sailed. He went over as a seaman. They gave him a couple of days to meet his buddies, and he didn't make it, and the ship sailed. So now he was stuck in Vietnam. So he had a hell of a story in the middle of Tet. Okay, he was in Saigon.
That's bad timing.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Wow.
The luck of the Irish.
Wow.
But Chuck, I'm so grateful you came on here, and I really wanted you to meet Don. You guys are very similar in the way you think and in the way you approach things. And I just thought this would be a nice thing to finally get these guys together. And Don's been around for a while. He's also an author, written some interesting stuff. I'm almost 3/4 of the way through his Vampires in Vietnam book, which is fucking cool. It is actually really cool. And they come stateside to be used as a weapon by the CIA and other nefarious members of the government. Did I say that about the CIA?
Bad.
Oh, well, they're listening. You may as well say it again.
When they still hated commies, not became commies.
Not us.
Now they're the commies' best friends. Woo. You know, I'm not saying that Kennedy was on the right track, but he really was on the way of breaking them up and getting rid of them. Yeah. And I have no doubt that played a part in his death. So I'm not a conspiratorial guy, but there are some conspiracies I know are real. But let's get into this, Chuck. I get to talk to you, and we've got a broader, bigger audience now because of KGRA. Give them an idea of who you are. And I'm going to read this thing you sent me. I thought it was funny. I'm like, Chuck actually sent this to me, and I'm going to read it, what you sent.
Well, you asked for it.
Yeah, I know I did. I always ask for it, and I deserve it.
You make me sound like some kind of an egomaniac.
No, I'm not saying you. Well, I'm also not saying you aren't.
No.
And you know, just so I can say this before I read this, is like the minute you become friends with Chuck Dixon, you're inevitably going to also become friends with Graham Nolan. So it's like a package deal getting to be friends with these guys. And I've always told him, I said, what's the point of being friends with you if I don't get to have you on my show every once in a while? So Chuck Dixon is the most prolific scripter in the history of comic books, with well over 40,000 pages of comics in publication. His work on both Batman and the Punisher are considered seminal to those franchises. He contributed the majority of the writing done on the legendary Nightfall event for Batman that formed the basis of Christopher Nolan's trilogy of films featuring the Dark Knight. During his decades-long association with DC Comics Batman, he also co-created the iconic villain Bane, and his partner in that crime was none other than Graham Nolan. And I think I've asked you before, but what the heck, new audience? How did you guys meet, Chuck? What got that relationship going?
Well, I started working with Tim Truman because I lived nearby and I wanted to get in comics, and he was in comics. So
this is back when you were up north, right?
Yeah. This is like 85, 86. And I think Tim had run into Graham at a convention, and they were both Kubert School alumni.
Right.
And Graham was showing stuff to Tim. Tim was showing it to me, and then eventually we met at a con, and we started working together on Airboy, one of my earliest books.
Right.
Graham started
I got to do a pinup for that.
What's that?
I got to do a pinup last year for.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So from there, we just kept collaborating, and when I got on Batman, doing Detective Comics, and our regular artist left, I campaigned hard to bring Graham on the book because he's such a Batman scholar, as well as obviously an awesome artist.
He's pretty good.
He checks all the boxes. He's a good writer too.
Yeah, he is. Oh my God, yeah, it's kind of shocked me because you don't always get that, and he's actually a very good writer.
Yeah, and a businessman. He's like a triple threat because he's running his own crowdfunding empire over there and doing very well. I'm very proud.
I love the use of the word empire on it because it really is. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. He's going to be coming on, I think, either next week or the following week. I'm going to have him on the show because he's got some stuff coming up too. And you two are just powerhouse. You've proven the comic industry to be full of shit.
Yep.
Your careers not only kept going, they've grown. And you've got a fantastic fan base. And I get to know some of the people that love your work, both you and Graham's. But I would like to, it's been a goal of mine to get you both on the show at the same time. And the one time it happened, I think, was it you or was it him that called in? Couldn't be there. I'm like, damn you.
Yeah, probably was me.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I just know one day I'm going to get the both of you on at the same time. But having you on is always a pleasure because, one, you're one of the sharpest dudes I know. And I really do love your writing. You have a way of, because everybody wants to hate us because we're conservative. But the fact is, you don't write as a conservative. You do the right way of writing, which is you don't show yourself in your writing. You let the characters show themselves.
I'm proud of being an invisible hand writer.
Exactly.
I'm sure some of my mindset and some of my life experiences leaks into the work, but it's not intentional. I write escapist fiction.
Yeah. And I like the way you do that. And one of the best ones, once again, was a team up between you and Graham again, was the Expendables Go To Hell.
Yeah.
Which was just fantastic. Eventually, I'm going to get around to sending it to you and Graham to get you both to sign it for me. But
Cool.
yeah, but just really good stuff. And that led to a relationship with Stallone.
Well,
Right?
actually, the relationship with
Was
Stallone
it Levon, or was it that?
No, it was. I did an Expendables prequel comic for Dynamite, and Sly read it and called me on the phone and
That's
said,
right. You told me that.
"You'd like to
That's
come
right.
out to Hollywood and work with me on rewrites."
Hey, Chuck, you want to come out?
That's it. So he figured out within 5 minutes I was from Philadelphia, because as soon as I heard him talking, I fell back into my West Philly accent.
You're from Philly, Chuck.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm from Altoona.
Okay. Yeah, I've lived all over Pennsylvania, all over the east side, Lancaster, Reading, everywhere. So we had a production meeting which went well, but then I found out later that all production meetings go well. But I think they forgot.
Yeah, right. Doesn't mean it's getting done.
Doesn't mean it's getting done. They forgot my name by the time I got to the elevator. But the most amazing thing about it is Sly didn't forget me. And if you know anything about Hollywood, man, they forget you the instant they don't need you anymore.
Right.
But he didn't forget me. He stayed in touch. He got me work doing web content for Lionsgate, and he got me the job doing dialogue for an Expendables video game. And then he kept calling me every once in a while and just to talk stuff. And he optioned Levon Cade as a TV series. And then I got the idea. He'd start talking about Expendables Go To Hell. He'd love to make Expendables Go To Hell, but nobody would ever greenlight it. And I said, well, it'd make a hell of a comic. And then, we got to work.
Yep. And I want to show people who Levon is. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Share screen. Because you're quite a prolific novelist.
Yeah.
And Chuck's putting a lot of books out. And Levon is one of your, I put him right up there with the Punisher. I mean, not Punisher. I'm sorry. The classic, they made Remo Williams character, the Destroyer.
Yeah, Destroyer.
But I think yours is grounded more in realism, which I like.
I try.
You try.
He's not a Superman.
Yeah.
Well, they made one movie about Remo Williams, right?
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a series, but it never happened.
Yeah.
The
franchise didn't take off.
Yeah, the franchise didn't. They did a pilot, as I recall, and it just didn't go over. Nobody wanted to watch it. So, but
I watched it. I liked it.
Yeah, the first half of the movie was great. They kind of went off the rails in the second half, but the setup was fantastic.
Oh, you're talking about the movie. I love the movie. Yeah.
The guy that played the Korean martial artist, I can't think of his name.
Joel Grey.
Joel Grey. Yep.
Yeah, Joel Grey.
Which would never happen today.
He was great in that.
He was.
Yeah, and but I actually, they did shoot a pilot.
Wow.
For the series, and I've seen little bits of it here and there, and it just looks terrible. It was a bad idea. And but the film, I enjoyed the film a lot. I thought some of the elements were really cool, and Fred Ward as Remo is really good. Fred Ward,
that was
man.
perfect casting because he was an everyman. He wasn't.
He's
some
got that.
pretty boy.
He's got that mug that looks like he's been broken a few times.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he has real false teeth. I had no idea that scene in Miami Blues when he pulls his false teeth out.
Yeah,
those were actually his false teeth.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's room temp these days.
Yeah, he died last year, right?
We miss him, man. What a great actor. I've always hoped for a proper Tremors sequel or movie with series. But
we have a question for Chuck.
Yeah, man. Here. Ask away, Martin.
Oh, no.
Oh, you want me to read it? Speaking of Expendables Go to Hell, apparently there are some out there unproduced Rambo scripts that get a bit sci-fi. Has Chuck ever thought about doing comic adaptation?
No, actually, I don't know about them, but I do have a crowdfunder for a Rambo graphic novel.
Can we pull that up?
Yeah, it's his first tour in Vietnam. It's basically a Rambo Year One story.
Yeah, if you can pull that up, Martin, I'd appreciate it. There it is. This is the crowdfund, and if you'll share the link into the chat for people to go check it out.
Of course.
It's my pleasure. And this is it's called First Kill. It's because First Blood is after the war. This is what he was doing during the war.
Yeah, we take him from a Arizona high school student that he enlists, and take him through his first actions. So it's we got some really top artists on it: Aaron Affleck and Matt Barr, Butch Geist, a bunch of other guys.
Outstanding, man.
Yeah,
outstanding. This should, I'm looking forward to it. It's his first tour of duty in Vietnam. So the character of Rambo. What involvement is the author? Is he given his thumbs up of approval? Said anything?
I'm working with Sly, so I don't know.
Just straight with Sly. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just working through Sly.
Well, who's got the rights?
It sounds like Sly does.
Yeah, Sly pretty much holds the rights to all these things, or holds the comic book rights, because there's never a question. Because when we did Expendables Go to Hell, we got a cease and desist from Millennium Films, and then Sly said, "Nah, I'll handle it." And then he reminded them that he maintained the comic book rights, because he's a big comic book fan.
Well, he's a little long in the tooth now to still be doing Rambo, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
That's why it's probably better to do comics. Better to do comics.
Yes, better to do comics. So
don't have to do your own stunts in the comics.
Yeah. He's past doing his own stunts. So,
man, this is fantastic. What word have you gotten on Levon with Stallone?
Well, you know how these things go. COVID came, and then things get cold, and he got involved with other projects. I have some interest from another production company now, but it's all promises till you see your name on a check.
Yeah, until you see a check. That's what I've always said. Even in publishing, man, I don't get excited about shit until a check shows up, a payment.
Now, he gave me a generous option deal, so I made some money on it. But I probably made more money from him, because he got a big payout from Expendables Go to Hell. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Anything else going on? What else you got going on? I saw you sent me some other links.
Yeah, I got Midnight's War graphic novel. That's up at Indiegogo. That's a vampire story. Don, you'll be interested.
Actually, one of the scripts that's still not drawn that I have on my computer that I want to get around to when I finally find time is your Dracula story on the moon. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
I've got that on my hard drive.
Dracula on the moon?
Dracula on the moon.
Yep.
It was wackadoodle and good. I liked it.
Yeah, it's gonzo crazy, but it works.
But go throw that up, Martin.
Oh.
Yeah, go throw it up. I don't mean throw up. I mean throw the image. Hello.
For some reason, it's not showing.
Oh, here. Let me try it. See if it works for me. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I'll do it this way. And this is Midnight's War. What's the premise on this one, buddy?
It's set in an alternative universe where vampires are the ruling class, and we're just serfs,
supplicants, right?
It's set in the modern world, and a group of basically modern day knights who have been blessed so that their blood is poisonous. The vampires are basically working as vigilantes on the outside to take them down. My part in this is creating a character named Kyle Buckner, who's a military vet, becomes a cop. He's human, and he basically works as a thrall for the vampires. Something that he doesn't like, being a thrall. And so it's a series of like police procedural mysteries set inside this world.
Well, it's funny. I've always had going back to when I was a kid, I had a thing for vampires. And back in the 90s, my wife, Vicky, and I were publishing a magazine, UFO magazine, out of here in LA. And for shits and giggles, I used to write I still do, but I wrote a lot of short stories, usually supernatural themed, and would send them out to friends and family. Well, I wrote a short called Night Shift, and I sent it to a friend of mine who was a writer on Star Trek. You know her, Gary.
Yeah, Diana Botsford.
Botsford, yeah.
Yeah, she lived right here in town for years.
And she loved it. And she said, you ought to really turn that into a novel. So it was in July. This had to be 2001 or 2. I'm outside trimming the hedges, hotter than hell here. I live in the San Fernando Valley, Chuck.
Yeah.
And I'm sweating, and I've got my electric clippers, and I'm trimming the hedges, and I lost my grip on the damn thing. And like a dumbass, I grabbed for it with my left hand and damn near sawed my little finger off.
Whoa.
No shit. So I'm standing there kind of in shock, and the blood is squirting out of my hand, and suddenly the hook for the novel came to me. I swear to God, it was.
That's how it happens.
If vampires were real, what would happen if the CIA got their hands on one? And went from my almost severed finger to my published novel. That's crazy, but that's how it happened.
That is how it happens, though. It's the craziest times.
Yeah, it's like, well, you've read Vindicated, my comic that I still haven't published yet. One day I'm going to finally release that book. And you liked it. I loved your quote was, now that's my kind of comic.
No.
And the inspiration for that is weird too, because I was on my way to pay my rent. I had to drive 2 blocks there and 2 blocks back to pay my rent. And on the way there, I came up with this idea for a cartoon that would have 2 disabled veterans playing basketball, both in wheelchairs, one with a arm missing. And he makes a left-handed hook shot, makes the shot, wins the game, turns to his partner in a wheelchair, throws up his stump and says, "Phantom limb high five." Yeah. All my disabled veteran buddies laughed their ass up at that. And I got there, paid the rent, and on my way back, I'm like, why is he like that? Why is this guy like this? And all of a sudden I had the entire story by the time I pulled into my apartment.
Wow.
The entire story of Vindicated in my head. And I went upstairs, wrote it. First person I called was my buddy Jeff Searcy over at Wounded Warrior Project. I said, hey man, I'm going to tell you this story and you tell me. And he sat there for like 40 minutes with me and he's like, that's fucking awesome. The first ever disabled veteran action hero comic, and focused on the main character being a disabled vet.
Wow.
Of which in the book I go, actually, I'm enabled. Thank you.
Well, it kind of related. I mean, when I first started in comics, when you work freelance, you guys know this, you got to write a check to the IRS. There's no withholding.
You're right.
I had to write like the biggest check of my life to the IRS that year, which I really hated the tax man on that day. So the next thing I was assigned to write was an issue of the Nom for Marvel. And I wrote, I think, the best story I've ever written. And it was about a guy who becomes a sniper and they assign him to kill Viet Cong tax collectors. So I kind of got it out of my system with that story.
That's great.
There, I can finally put that behind me now. And I got to tell you, I know what you're talking about. When you're, especially if you're a contracted employee, you have to pay attention to that shit.
Yeah.
And I hate that, man. It's like I worked for every dime, and I got to give you some of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'll gig you if you don't. They find it all.
So I feel you on that. But one of the cool things was you were part of the bullpen, and you got to work with some top names up there, including, I told you I got the nicest rejection letter from I just forgot his name, from Batman Detective Comics.
Denny O'Neil.
Denny had, it was a handwritten letter, unlike Marvel, which sent me a form letter
along with the no prize,
because they wanted to hire me. This is back in the 80s. They thought I would fit, but back then you had to move to New York.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to do that. I had a kid, and I'm like, I can't do it. I use it as an excuse, really. It's a chicken shit move on my part. I admit it. But he
because they weren't paying enough for you to afford to live in New York. I mean, all of my editors I work with at Marvel and DC, they were all living like 4 guys in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right, because it's over $1,000 a month rent up there back then.
Yeah, and most of these guys were living in Jersey City or in Connecticut,
having to commute in. Yeah. So but he handwrote me this letter, and I contacted him later through Facebook, and I talked to him. I said I never forgot that. I kept it for years because I thought it was just really nice that he wrote me that letter. Marvel just sent me this form letter. So sorry. Thanks for trying.
Yeah. Fearless, faithful one.
And I've heard a lot of negative things about Denny over the years, but I thought, I was really moved by that he wrote me that personal letter of rejection. And the only reason he rejected me was because I wouldn't move up there. He says, I'm sorry, we don't hire freelancers. You got to be a big name before you get to freelance in this industry.
Yeah, well, most of the negative stuff you hear about Denny comes from the fact that he was painfully shy, and it would come off as brusqueness or rudeness. But until you got to know him, he really didn't like contact with people. But once you got to know him, he was awesome. And if you got him on the subject of Batman, he was a lion. I mean, the shyness just sort of melted away.
Yeah, and I loved his work on Batman. I mean,
he saved the Batman.
Detective Comics was absolutely one of the most amazing comics. And when I heard that they were going to be making that last Batman as a detective comic based off of the 70s, I got excited about it, and then it just all went downhill from there.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys, because I'll be very honest. I've never been huge when I was a kid. I really dug Superman, but for years, the graphic stuff just didn't twang my twinger. But I watched the movie where Batman was going after Superman. Now, I can't think of which movie that was. Might have been Justice League or something. I don't remember. But I always thought to myself, Batman going after Superman? What kind of a moron would do that? Okay. And Batman is just a guy in a suit. Superman is E.T. with superpowers. How would that work out? And I don't know. I thought it was
one thing. Bruce Wayne knew that Clark Kent, Superman, would never use all his strength. That he would always. Am I not right here, Chuck? That he just knew that Superman would never come at him with all his strength, and he was always looking for weaknesses of Superman as a contingency plan, kryptonite, stuff like that. I mean, that's what Miller wrote about with the Dark Knight Returns. Was that
my era on Batman, the time I was on Batman, it morphs and changes and everything else, but in our continuity, Batman was always a bit suspicious of Superman because he's not human,
right?
And he didn't know if because Batman's a suspicious guy, that maybe Superman had some sort of ulterior motive, and quite frankly, Superman could rule the world if he wanted to. and
Mhm.
Batman wanted some sort of fail-safe program in place. So yeah, Batman had kryptonite and stuff like that. Preventative measures in case Superman ever went off his
Yeah,
nut.
there's a lot of similarity, in my opinion, between Lex Luthor and Batman or Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. So it was just a difference in upbringing.
Yeah.
Oh.
One was raised right and the other one was just fucking evil.
Yeah, Luthor had no Alfred. So
Yeah.
Right. But it is a good question because that's come up in discussion so many times of, Superman could flick him and just he would evaporate.
yeah, and why they do it, Don, is it's fan service. The fans wonder, who would win? Could Batman defeat Superman? So you got to do a story about it to basically.
Well, kryptonite's like radiation, right?
Yeah,
you got to
From his
be
home
within
world.
a certain distance. Superman could sit off 6 blocks, throw a spear. I mean, if you just wanted to, and with his supervision, superpowers, stick Batman to a wall.
Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, they build Batman up to where he's a genius. So, if he had to figure it out, he could. That's the premise.
Yeah, it's the mind. That's how he would find a way to beat him, is by being smarter. But that reminds me of that National Lampoon thing that came out in the 70s, Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex. Do you remember that, Chuck?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it was fucking sick.
That's always been a long time discussion amongst fans too. So.
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't his ejaculate come out like a fucking bullet? Just kill you. But
he's not human.
He's not human. So what else have we got here, Chuck, that we're going to be showing? And really, how far are we away from getting a finished version of this one right here, Midnight's War?
Well, the work's all done. So fulfillment would be within a month and a half, 2 months. So and that's the way all these crowdfunding things are starting to go. They don't really ask for your money until they have the project either entirely done or mostly done. The best crowdfunders, the most successful crowdfunders, they don't make you wait a year and a half anymore like they used to.
Yeah. And that's just it, because before I go for crowdfunding on Vindicated, I'm going to finish the last 2 chapters because I went back and rewrote them. And to be honest with you, when you read, because I'm going to send you a copy so you can enjoy it, you will love the last chapter of the book. Cool. I played it off of Dale Dye, Dale Dye.
Yeah.
And his wife, Julia. And they're like, oh my God, that is the best, most fucked up ending to an action story. Meant to continue. It's meant to be 3 graphic novels. Mm-hmm. And the first graphic novel ends with a joke. And it was sort of, because I don't know how you feel about it, but I actually like the Killing Joke. Mostly because I enjoyed the joke, where the Joker says that line, about the flashlight. You remember what I'm talking about, right?
Right. Oh, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he says, I'm not crazy. I'm crazy. I'm not stupid. That was it. You just turn off the flashlight on me halfway across. And I went, that's an interesting way. And I grew up in that era with Mickey Spillane. I loved reading those books, and he always had a way of ending on a one-liner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And, from, she asked, how could you do it? And Mike, and he's like, it was easy. Last line, it was easy.
He just gut shot. He gut shot her with a 45 automatic.
Yeah, fucking shot her with a fucking 45. And then the next one was Juno Was a Man, and the previous one was I the Jury. I forget what Juno Was a Man one. It was a trans character that he kills at the end.
Right.
And because they're getting ready to murder him. And he just would have these snappy endings. And that's what I did. I finally went back to that classic Mike Hammer, Mickey Spillane way of writing for Vindicated, that I'm like, I'm going to end on a fucked up joke.
That's cool.
And it's so dark. I'll tell you off camera. I won't tell you during the show.
Okay.
But
you don't spoil your own ending.
Yeah, don't want to do that. I want people to buy the damn book. But the whole thing is, though, is coming up with stuff all the time. And as a writer, Where do you go to dip into the well of ideas for all the stuff that you come up with?
Well, Bob Burden, a long time ago, said that, somebody said, "Where do you get your ideas?" He said, "I use the wrong part of my brain," and I think that's a funny answer, but it's also true. Somehow I'm able to access a syntax that most other people can't, and I think every writer can. And a lot of it comes from who you are, how you were raised, what turned you into a writer. And in so many cases, what turns a person into a writer is something in their past, their childhood, or whatever, that makes them more of an observer than a participant.
Mhm.
And the writer is always a little bit of an outsider. I guess writing is a way to reach out in a way. Not to get too psychological, because I don't like that stuff either. But I find that to be true. So where the ideas come from, they can come from anywhere. I mean, I can overhear a conversation standing in line at Target and think, wow, I got to use that. And read something in the newspaper, whatever. They just come, and I don't worry about it anymore. When you first start writing professionally, you worry, am I going to run out of ideas? And I guess some people do, but for me, it's a compulsion, and I'll never get to all the ideas that I have scribbled down on notes.
Well, Chuck, in the middle of my novel, when I was writing it, I would get consumed. I called it my muse would take control of me.
Yeah.
And honest to God, one morning my wife came out and I'm banging away on my computer, and she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "Hey, by any chance, are you going to come home anytime soon?"
I've been there on that one.
Yeah, did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, my wife forbids me to write time travel stories because she says it makes me schizophrenic. She doesn't like the way I act when I'm writing, and she can tell it's really weird. I'll try to sneak in a time travel story, and she'll be like, "You're writing time travel, aren't you?" I'm like, "Holy crap. Yeah, I am." So she preferred when I wrote Conan.
Well, it's funny because I'm working on a part 2 of a story that I've got to let it sit a while to congeal.
Yeah.
But while I've been doing that, I had this idea, which I'm not going to go into, but it would ultimately involve time travel.
Yeah.
And what is wonderful about that is you can practically do anything in that universe you want to. And that's like ambrosia for me,
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse because you got to keep all your ducks in a row. I mean, I got to talk a lot to Bob Gale, who wrote the Back to the Future movies, and I said, I admire you so much because you wrote 3 movies about time travel as complex as you can possibly imagine, and you never dropped a stitch. There's nowhere in those 3 movies where you go, well, that doesn't make sense, or that wouldn't work, or they forgot about this. And that's pretty amazing. I mean, these are like lighthearted action comedies, but he really put the work in on the time travel end of it to make.
Well, I'll tell you that first one where Michael J. Fox, the actress that plays his mother, came on to him. That cracked me up.
I'm my own grandpa.
And I like how they handled it. They handled it so deftly. The first time they kiss, she realizes there's something wrong. Something wrong. That was just so deftly handled, so that it's like, okay, well, this isn't perverse. It's just, synchronicity here.
Yeah. I'm glad you used that word.
I actually meant to say propinquity, but.
Well, if you didn't know, I'm a Jungian, and I am just fascinated by Jung and his research. But I wrote this the other day, and I wanted to get your response to it, because as a prolific writer of over 40,000 pages of comics, I love that. That is great. This is what I was taught by my writing professor. I was told by my creative writing teacher that when choosing a story to tell, that I might consider thinking about what story I'd tell a loved one, like my dad, if it were the last story he'd ever hear from me. that made me think about how important it was to tell the best story I could muster, to not waste someone's time on a half-ass story, but give them the very best. So now I treat every single story I come up with in that fashion, and I will put stories away if I feel that it doesn't cut the mustard.
Well, I mean,
Even if I think it's neat, I will put it away for another day.
I understand that. You know, you don't write the parts that people are going to skip, and you know, I write concisely, tersely, because of a mortal fear of boring people. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. You want to say things that are interesting. You want to have a subject that's interesting. You want to have a plot, if there's a plot, that's interesting.
Yeah, you want
And
to
I
engage
noticed
from the very first line. You want to engage from the very first. The first words are the most important. You got to draw the reader in and keep them.
you are one person that I do turn to a lot when I try to describe to people. If you want to learn to write and not be ham-fisted in your writing, go read Chuck Dixon's stuff, because good luck finding him in the writing.
Yeah,
And you know what I'm
heard-
saying. Good
Yeah,
luck.
I mean, I had a soap opera writer a couple of years ago. She asked me, how do you get me so interested in the character so quickly? And I said the same thing. I said, it's this mortal fear of boring people. You know, I've got to get you interested in the character or you won't be interested in the story. And I just do it as quickly as I can. You know,
Yeah,
but
because
it's something they do, not something they say.
exactly. Action.
I mean, if you watch old movies from the golden age of Hollywood from the 30s and 40s, they
Right.
were fantastic at presenting the characters, the situation, and the concept within the first 5 minutes of the film. You know, and then the story rolls on from there, and you completely understand.
And no new
everybody's
characters
motive.
after page 20 or 20 minutes into it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I mean,
Casablanca is the epitome
yeah.
of that.
exactly. And when you look at Casablanca, it's like every scene serves 2 or 3 purposes, and no one speaks to plot. You learn everything by what the characters do. A lot of times the characters say exactly the opposite of what they mean, but you get it. It's brilliantly written. And if you look at like most like Hollywood, even Hollywood fluff like screwball comedies that have a high concept, within the first 3 to 5 minutes, it's all set up beautifully without anybody speaking to plot, without any exposition, you know, mostly through visuals and little exchanges of dialogue. It's
Right.
just, and I urge anybody to pay more attention to old movies because they really knew what they had to put asses in the seats and make money at a quarter a seat.
And the only way to do it was with a good story.
Exactly.
You know, they hadn't come up with the sweeping epic movie yet. Gone with the Wind was the first sweeping epic.
Well,
And-
I differ there because if you look at some of the silent films, they were insane.
Well, you know, now that I think about it, it's like because the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur were actually first silent films, and
Right.
they do count. You're right.
I mean, if you see silent films from France, because the Depression hit France so bad, they could get
Yeah.
extras literally for a box lunch, and you'll see tens of thousands of people on screen. It's insane.
I'm sorry, I just looked at something in the chat. I got to share it here. Dragon Ruse writes, the only book that will capture my attention has to have dragon in its first sentence. But I think that you shouldn't, well, going back to film, there's a lesson I learned, which I was told by my creative writing teacher as well, that you can have a story without a plot, but there's no such thing as a plot without a story. And it's very important to make sure you're telling an interesting story. And some writers today, like J.J. Abrams, focuses completely on plot and plot twists, which are devices. And I keep telling people, plot has nothing to do with story. It's a device used in telling the story, but it doesn't have to be there.
Exactly. You could not be more on, Gary.
Yeah, and it's what I focus on. And one of the things I like about your stuff is you spend so much time developing character and you focus a lot on character arc too. And that's one of my favorite things in a good writer is somebody who focuses on the story arc, character, and character arcs.
Well,
And-
I work hard to hide my plots. There are plots, and I work hard on the plots, but I don't want you to see any of that. So
Yeah, it
I
should
work-
be really subtle. It really should be.
Well,
I mean, you
beyond subtle, it should be invisible. You should not be aware that you're watching or reading a story.
Yeah,
Uh,
and sometimes the plot should be a MacGuffin. Like Hitchcock made that
Yeah.
saying famous because he understood how to use a device to help tell the story. That what was going on was more important than the bomb under the table. Remember that?
Yeah, it wasn't, that was just a means to get the characters together for whatever purposes, for
Yeah,
suspense, for romance,
the
whatever.
briefcase with something in it, like they did in. I'm not a big fan of Pulp Fiction. I really don't think Quentin's that good a writer, but I did like the use of the MacGuffin in that with the briefcase and
it was never displayed.
never
You
revealed.
never know what it was.
It wasn't important. Yeah,
Well, that's like
wasn't-
I wanted to know what it was.
That's like the movie Ronin. It's the same thing. You've got this
Ronin?
briefcase everybody's fighting over, and you never find out what's in it. It's not.
You're talking about the one with Jean Reno
Niro.
and Robert De Niro. Yeah,
Yeah,
good film,
Yeah.
man.
yeah.
Who was that? That was
John Frankenheimer.
well, that's Frankenheimer. Yeah,
And
And it
David Mamet wrote the screenplay uncredited.
I love Mamet, dude.
Yeah.
I love that guy. What a writer.
But
I
speaking about hiding the plot, I mean, Howard Hawks, great film director. Big Sleep. He like basically dropped out of Hollywood in the 50s. He spent 5 years like traveling the world. And when he came back, television had happened. And he realized, boy, if I'm going to go back to making movies, I got to find a way to hide my story, because people are literally watching hours of story every night in their living rooms. So story ain't going to sell it anymore. I got to come up with a story and then hide it under, evocative characters and engaging situations and relationships and tension and all this other stuff. And that's when he made the movie Rio Bravo, which if you watch it is amazing, because no one, it's the plot's just sort of an excuse for the action. Everything seems to happen naturally and organically.
It's very organic. Yeah.
Yeah. In the first 5 minutes of the film, there's no dialogue.
That is a great film. I like. Was it was remade 3 times, right?
Yeah. Yeah. By Hawks.
Yeah, and it's like I didn't get it right the first time. I'm like, come on, Dean
I
Martin
think
was
he did.
great.
I liked El Dorado, but I still prefer Rio Bravo.
Rio Bravo. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Now I was going to bring up, because like Mamet, there was a great moment the other day on our show. We had one of the effects guys from a few movies and TV shows on our show. He's a good friend of Keith's and mine, and he worked on Spartan with Mamet.
Cool.
Okay, and of course that was with Val Kilmer. And Val Kilmer, he was told me this one story, because we were talking about how Val Kilmer, can be kind of a shithead on set, a real asshole. And he said that Mamet was standing there, and all of a sudden, Val Kilmer's like having a beef with one of the lines in the script. And he's kind of going into how he feels the character should be saying this differently. And he goes on to saying, and Mamet looks at him and just waits for him to finish. And when he was done, he says, Val, read the line exactly the way it's written, or I'm going to find another actor. And he said the name of an actor. I can't remember who it was, a big actor of the same age range and stuff, to come in for half the price to finish the film. Val just shut the hell up and did the line. I'm like, that's great. But Mamet,
it's like when Jeff Bridges showed up first day of shooting on Big Lebowski.
Right.
And he said to John Goodman, where are the rewrite pages? And Goodman says, yeah, that's right. You never worked with these guys before. I mean, in all the films the Coen brothers have ever made, there's only been one ad lib allowed. So,
what was it? I don't remember.
In Miller's Crossing, when John Turturro is going to be shot in the head by Gabriel Byrne, he repeats the line, "Look into your heart," several times. And that wasn't in the script, but they let him go for it.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I like Miller's Crossing.
That's an awesome scene too.
Yeah, that one. I got to be honest. Their first movie, what was it? Blood Simple.
Yeah,
big fan of that film. I really like that. It's neo noir, good neo noir. But who are some of your favorite writers? Who are the guys that really got your passion going for wanting to? I like that so much. I want to do that.
Well, in comics it was Archie Goodwin, because Goodwin was able to comics were always too talky for me, even as a kid. It's like, well, why are they talking so much? I want to see shit happening. And he would balance words and pictures, and he was an invisible hand writer. You didn't pay attention to the writing because he didn't want you to. He only put enough in there to let the pictures carry the story. Other than that, I mean, Donald Westlake. I'm a big fan of Donald Westlake. I've read all of his novels. For those of you who don't know, he created Parker, the thief character. He created John Dortmunder, the other thief character from the movie The Hot Rock.
Parker has been made into 3 films at this point.
I think more than that. More than that.
I know that Lee Marvin,
Gentlemen,
and Jason Statham, and Mel Gibson.
Yeah, he's also been played by Jim Brown and Robert Duvall. So,
guys,
when did Robert Duvall play him?
In the 70s, and it's probably the closest to the books. It's called The Outfit. It's the closest.
Oh, I know that movie. Was that? Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Hey, Gary, we must go to break.
Oh well, there we go. We got to pay the bills. Are we ready? Let's go. Hi guys, this is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Behind every folded flag is a family. When American lives are lost in defense of our freedom, TAPS is there to help the friends and families of those who have served and died. TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for survivors. We provide help, hope, and healing every day. Visit us online at TAPS.org or call 1-800-959-TAPS.
Are you looking to go on a faraway journey that is magical and mysterious, reaping on mystical legends? If so, then Mysterious Adventure Tours is perfect for you. Imagine a voyage to explore ancient mysteries of Ireland, haunted majesties of Scotland, or their chilling Birth of the Vampires in Romania. These small, esoteric getaways are limited and do fill up fast. So, go to MysteriousAdventureTours.com and book your trip soon.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Oh wow, we survived. Welcome back from the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA. That sounds so stupid.
And we're back.
Wow, look at you, a big grown-up broadcaster, Gary.
I know, man. Can you believe it?
Seriously.
I want to bring up something that I'm so proud of this, that you stole something from me. And I was like, you told me I'm going to steal it. I said, are you going to give me credit for it? And you went, no. And the line, I don't know if you ever even used it yet. It was something I said to somebody in the Army when they were trying to threaten me. And I turned to him and I said, you don't understand. I can kill you more ways than you know how to die. You were like, I love that. I'm stealing it. I went, am I getting credit? And you're like, no. Oh my God.
Well, as Friedrich Nietzsche said, a writer uses his own and his friends' intellects.
That's right. But I got to tell you, I was so grateful when I met you. And it was just a fluke. Like Tom, last minute, Tom Waltz was like, hey, Gary, I need you to color this comic. It's written by Chuck Dixon. I went, Chuck motherfucking Dixon? He's like, yes, Chuck motherfucking Dixon. I went, okay. All right, I'll do it. And so I went in there and I got irritated with the artist. And he gave me permission to fix the artwork because I was so irritated with the guy's lighting. He'd light from one direction and then in the same panel, different direction. I'm like, figure your light source, dipshit. And that led to some funny stuff, which is I was already working. If you didn't know this, I worked for IDW. I was their director of their video marketing. I did all their animated trailers and composed the music for it and all that shit. I get voice actors or do it myself to narrate for the commercials for the comic titles, as well as their internal marketing when they went to conventions to promote IDW. And Tom walks into the office. No shit, this is really how it happened. Chris Ryle and Ted Adams are sitting there, and he goes, Gary's a better artist than he is at that other stuff. And they just started laughing. They didn't take him seriously. And he goes, no, seriously. And he went and got the printout of my portfolio and took it into him. And I never did any more direction for him. That was when I started doing work for him. They're workhorse. But you got to work with them too. I miss the old IDW, and I hope it comes back.
I don't think that's happening, but yeah, I miss it too.
I don't either, but it was really nice because the guy that took over G.I. Joe, he screwed me out of any work. I was hired. I went through the whole vetting process, got hired to do covers for G.I. Joe, and then didn't do any until finally the last few months of G.I. Joe, I got to do one of the covers. And but then like people brought it up recently that they realized the final issue of G.I. Joe cover for IDW, they replicated the same thing I did on my cover.
Wow.
And didn't give me any credit. And I'm like, that's kind of poopy.
Well, as Jack Kirby said, comics will break your heart, kid.
I tell you, man. That's why I'm glad I do other stuff, not just comics.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'll do one of your book covers, when you have money.
Yeah.
But I like your covers. I like the way you get them done. I don't know. I love the Levon books in particular, those covers.
Yeah.
And
they do a good job on them.
Yeah, I bought I don't buy any hard copies of books anymore. Everything I buy, yours or any of my friends, is almost always digital. But I do miss having a library of books, man. And I love book covers. And I think I find doing book covers more as an artist, more, I don't know, fulfilling than doing movie posters when I do those. I don't know why. It's just I feel like I'm telling part of the story.
Yeah.
Whereas the movie I'm promoting, the book cover, I have to tell something to the reader when they walk up, because sometimes they only see the thumbnail, and you got to be able to say something that can be even seen in the thumbnail. And
well, I'll tell you, you did a hell of a movie poster for that Hopkinsville case.
Yes, this is one you'll find funny, Chuck. Many people have reported back to me, yeah, the poster's better than the movie.
well, that can be said of 99% of movies.
I know, it's so true. But and I love Cody. He's a great guy. But it's almost like he gives up or something. And it's like he gets the movie to a certain point. It's just Hopkinsville in particular, and the artwork for Kecksburg. Because I did the posters, 3 posters for Kecksburg. And Cody pays me good money, so I don't want to shit on him. But I was just really annoyed that he didn't put as much passion into the making of those films as I felt that was putting into the posters. And I'm like, oh man, because now I can't brag about the movie. Because one of the funny things, Chuck, it was they paid me to design the alien. They wanted something that was cherub-like, a childlike, that these kids would, automatically like and be friendly with. And I went, okay, so I designed this cool, friendly-looking little gray alien. And when I see the film for the first time, it's this little person walking around in a really awkwardly fitted outfit and the worst rubber mask. And you can see the folds in the neck when they would move and in their face. And I'm like, I am absolutely not going to associate with this movie. I'm not going to do it. I love you, but no.
Yeah, I could sit in the theater going, "That's mine. I did that."
And I'm also listed as a producer on the film. I'm like, oh.
Jeez.
But I love Cody. He's got a lot of heart. He introduced me to Roddy Piper, and I got to do the official artwork for Wrestlers versus Zombies.
Cool.
And Roddy's fucking cool. Did you ever meet him?
No, I met a lot of wrestlers because I live in Tampa, but I never met him.
Man, I'm telling you, what a guy! What a guy! Yeah, I enjoy him. We do that show now. If you didn't know about it, we have a show on Sundays called Dork Side of the Ring. And,
I do know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it got all of our shows, by the way, if I didn't tell you, have been picked up by KGRA, but they don't start until January. Okay. This is the only show that's on KGRA currently. Cool. And I don't know how much Chanel, our producer, can handle me in particular. I don't know, Don. You think she can tolerate me?
I think that's why she likes me in here with you.
She likes you. I know she likes you. I don't think
Don is your minder.
Yes, he's my drill instructor, as he would jokingly refer to it as. He was doing when I cuss, when I drop an F-bomb, he's counting them. He was like taking it down every time I cuss. 14, he would say to me. But getting you on here was something I got. You remember John Del Vecchio, the author of 13th Valley and all that shit. He was our first guest. Yeah. Last week we have my buddy Josh Becker. He's going to stick to doing it. This is not his kind of show. And but you are somebody I would like to have back again and again, to whenever you got something new going, to have you on here, because you are such. Well, you're always such a great defender and supporter of the military. Yep. And I got to tell you, veterans love that. We love it. It's like, because Don says, did he serve? And I went, no, but he served in another way. He supports the military, and he supports soldiers in particular. And I love the way you write them. I like the way you write them.
Well, growing up, all of the dads in my neighborhood were World War II vets, a lot of them combat, and it was better than TV after they'd had a few beers and start talking.
I bet, yeah. Loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, just sort of like listening, and kind of got me in the habit of talking to vets, and asking them questions. I mean, I would ask guys coming back from Vietnam, and nobody was talking to them. Nobody was asking them anything. And I'm that, pesky kid saying, what was it like? What'd you do? Where were you? What unit were you with? And I did that all the way up into my adult life until they finally started paying me to do it, working in comics, talking to vets for reference material.
Yeah, so, you and Graham both have this two-fisted, you write and create wonderful two-fisted men, just going at it. It's like, none of this pussy shit. It's like you write real guys, and we like that.
Well, the real change in my experience happened after I got back in 72. I'll never forget one time, and I was raised, when I was a kid, especially by my mother. A man is always a gentleman. He'll open the car door for, his lady friend, his girlfriend. He'll open a door for. And so that just became ingrained in me. And I'll never forget one of the first times after I was back, I was going into a store. There were 3 girls behind me, and I saw them, and I stepped aside, and I opened the door, and this one chick looked at me, and she said, "I can open my own goddamn door." Well, buddy, that was a changing point for me. All right, sister, have fucking at it,
Now, see, I'm the kind of dick that would shut the door and then hold it on the other side. Go, okay, go ahead and open it.
Oh man,
having a tough time. Wow. But let's
big
get
change,
into
sea change.
Yeah, sea change. What are some of your current favorite? I don't care if it's books, comics, or movies. What are some things that Chuck's seen in the last few months?
Well,
that he liked and wanted to share.
Yeah, I rewatched The Outpost the other day.
Oh yeah, our good friend Rod Lurie, love his work, man.
Yeah,
He may be a lefty, but man, really knows how to make a war movie, doesn't he?
Yeah, I had no problems with it. It was excellent throughout. It reflected because I've talked to a lot of guys coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq too, and sort of reflected the way they talked, their sort of shared language.
Would you like the opposite side of that coin, Chuck?
What do you mean?
Check out a movie called Alien Outpost.
Oh yeah, Alien Outpost. It's a sci-fi film that came out in 2014, I think.
Oh, okay.
But it's strictly all military, and I'll tell you what, I told Gary about this, and he had seen it years ago, but I think I refreshed his memory.
Yeah, well, I went back and watched it again.
That is one hell of a movie.
I'll have to check that out. Definitely.
It's one of those low budget films, and don't have high expectations. I thought one of the best parts of it was one, there's a lot of cool shit in it, but there's some illogical shit like why aren't there landmines? And Don brought that up. Like, you have an outpost and there's no landmines out there, and you're going to have people approach
Claymores. I said claymores
or claymores and anti-personnel mines.
Yeah, I remember. Well, Donald, like this, I remember they wanted to do. But remember back in the 90s when everybody suddenly hated landmines and they wanted to ban all the landmines.
Oh yeah, Princess Diana and all that shit. Yeah,
we were supposed to feel bad about landmines. DC approached me about writing a Batman anti-landmine comic book because they figured, oh, you'll do the military homework. And I said, I can't write this because I like landmines. I would rather use, they're a force multiplier. I mean, you're talking about our military risking their lives because you want to ban landmines. I said, the other thing is, we're the only country that produces landmines that have a shelf life. They are deactivated after a while, not like World War I landmines, which are still going off in France. And so I said, no, I can't do it. Then they approached Graham to draw it, and he said exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's like landmines are essential.
Seriously,
especially anti-personnel like claymores in particular.
Yeah.
And I love them because it says this side towards enemy. It actually is printed on there.
Front toward enemy. Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's for high school dropouts, Gary.
Yeah.
I like how the letters are raised so you can even feel it.
Yeah, they're raised for. There's words here. I should read this.
Word side out, buddy.
Yeah. My first experience with the Claymore was in Claymore training, and my partner and I are setting it up. We haul ass back to the log pile, leap over it, and I've got the clacker detonator in my hand. I'm about to go click, click, click with it. And instead, before I can click it, I look, and I am like nose to nose with a fucking 500-pound Black Widow on this log pile. And I'm in charge of everybody, by the way. I'm the squad leader. And apparently I let out the most girly scream anybody's ever heard before. And I kicked and I threw the detonator in the air and I went flying backwards, scrambling away. And everybody's like laughing, going, what the hell? And then they saw it. And this began the debate over what do we do with it now that we found this Black Widow? And so like two guys were like going, man, we got to set it free. Let's catch it and just let it loose in the woods. And I'm like, well, one guy says, what if another guy's training here on the training field gets bit, man? We got to live with that. And while this debate's going on, this one black dude goes walking by me and just squishes this thing with his boot, and it popped with the loud. It's so big, and it went on everybody, spider guts. And he goes, argument over. I love the military life, man. There's some crazy people, and
I just like the directness of it all. I mean, that's why I remember when we got involved in Mogadishu, and the news people were there, and the interview was when the Marines first showed up, and they're talking to various Marines and everything. Why are we here and everything else? I just remember this one black Marine. He's sitting up in an APC in the turret. And they said, what are we doing here? Why are we here? And he says, every life in this whole goddamn country isn't worth the life of one United States Marine. But, oh man, this is my dude.
Yeah, this is my dude right there. You'll enjoy this one too, because like I've told this story to the people in the chat here before. I woke up one morning and I looked over, and one of my buddies is in his little cot, sleeping, sound asleep, and he's got a camel spider sleeping on his chest. And we have those in the U.S., by the way. A lot of people don't know that. We have them here in the Southwest, Arizona, Southern California, and New Mexico, parts of Texas. And they're scary looking things, dude. They look like something out of somebody's nightmare. And I saw that thing, and immediately, because I have arachnophobia, if you couldn't tell by the last story, that I actually considered chambering a weapon and shooting it off his chest. It was like that moment where I considered that. But
yeah, you made me look. You made me go on Google here, man. That is a frightening looking spider.
They're scary as fuck, dude. They don't look natural, and they're not as big as some people make them out. That was the biggest one I saw was about that big on his chest, but I'm looking at that thing and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to kill it. And then I noticed that other members of the squad were watching me, and I knew, well, I can't shoot it off his chest now. Everybody's watching. So I reached over and grabbed one of my boots, desert boots, and I just fucking hammered it right into his chest, woke him up.
I guess so.
And he's like, "What the fuck, dude?" And he's looking down and he sees guts all over him. He's like, "What the fuck?" And I said, "Just say thank you." And I walked away from him.
Well, here in Florida, we have banana spiders. Look them up sometime.
Oh, no, I know what they are. They're in the tarantula family. They're aggressive and poisonous.
And you can hear them walking. When they walk across the woods, you can actually hear them walking.
That's not right, man.
I got a spider story that my wife still gets pissed at me. We have those, what do you call those damn things? They're about the size of your palm of your hand, but they're really not dangerous.
Wolf spider or tarantula?
Tarantula. No, yeah. Well, it might have been a tarantula. But one night, it was a Sunday night, because we had to get up the next morning and do something for the magazine. But I was watching TV and I looked up on the wall, and honest to God, there was one of those damn things crawling up the wall, and he was big. And I yelled for Vic, and she came out, and I said, "There's an empty coffee can over there." I said, "Hand it to me." So I got up on a step ladder and I trapped this thing and got him in the can. Okay. And she said, "What are you going to do with him?" I said, "Well, I'm going to turn him loose." But I said, "I'm not going to do it now." I said, "I'll get it in the morning." So I set it on the counter. Well, she went to bed, and I got to tell you, the devil was sitting on my shoulder, and he said, "You know what? It would be funny because she always gets up in the middle of the night." Okay. So I took this damn spider out and I turned him loose, but I took the can back in and I kind of tore the top of the plastic lid and I popped it up. And then I went to bed. Well, at 4 o'clock in the morning, she came right into the bedroom and she's shaking me. Don, that damn spider got out. He's somewhere in the house." And then I told her what I did. And she got steamed. But I'll still remind her about that, but she gets pissed.
Oh, man.
Now, I've meant to ask you, you got kids?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got 2 sons.
I've never talked to you about it, and I'm curious. Yeah. What do your kids do?
My oldest sells suits for Joseph A. Bank, and my youngest, he works for a water purification company. He's like their go-to guy. He installs water purification systems because he's some kind of mechanical genius. So, which I'm not.
That's cool, man.
They're 2 hardworking boys. So.
Man, I got to tell you, going off in a direction like that's interesting. All my kids followed me. All 3 of my kids are artists or writers. You know, it's really weird. My daughter, Zoe, you've heard me talk about her. Yeah. She's actually a real artist. She does the expressionism stuff. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm too Asperger's. I'm too far into the spectrum to know how to do that shit. But I got to tell you, man, kids are where it's at. how old are they? Do you mind saying?
Yeah, 26 and 30. So
That's fantastic.
they're
Man.
men.
Are they in Florida?
Yeah. They're here in Florida, and and my oldest boy, I'd be remiss in saying this. He does some work in film too. He's done quite a bit of production assistant work and stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on down here in Florida. He's worked on a whole bunch of Hallmark Christmas movies and things like that.
Well, it started with the Carolinas, it went into Georgia, and it's going to eventually work its way to Florida, where that's the new Hollywood.
Oh yeah, I mean Hallmark's down here all the time. Hallmark, Lifetime, all of them are filming it.
My next door neighbor was a stunt man, and his wife was a dancer, and things got so crappy here in California, he ended up moving to Georgia, and he's working down there now quite a bit. So
yeah, they call it Yollywood. So
yeah, Yollywood.
Yollywood. That's great.
Because everybody talks. I mean, my son talks about it's just heading up to Atlanta. Forget Hollywood. You don't want to go there.
By the way, do you run into Richard Bonk down there? Because he doesn't live that far from you.
Yeah, he's up on the Redneck Riviera.
He's on the Panhandle.
Yeah, we see each other now and then. He'll come down here and do a store appearance, but I haven't done anything since COVID. I haven't been out of the house to do any kind of store appearances.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't know about you, but I was designed for COVID. I don't want to be around people.
Well, I'm the same way.
It's like, I don't have to go outside and see people? Fuck yeah, I'm in.
It was the world's greatest excuse,
That's another, Gary. That's another.
Yeah, we need you to be here. And I'm like, can't, COVID. So.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I came in prepped for that. It's like telling people in the house, don't go near me, don't touch my food. It was like the thing, it's like, I'll prepare my own meals. Thank you. By the way, this morning we did that this morning for Don and I did a show, UFO Wednesday, where we did from book to film, talking about who goes there, what inspired it. And we have our suspicions of what inspired it. I'm curious. You've read it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think inspired? Because I think it was communism.
Well, I think part of it was communism, but part of it, a large part of it, was that John W. Campbell, his mother was a twin. She had a twin sister who lived with them, and sometimes in the middle of the night he'd wake up, nightmare or whatever, and he was never sure who was coming in to comfort him. His aunt or his mom.
That's
where that
crap.
started.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I blew your minds, right?
You just blew my mind.
That is wild.
That would be horrifying.
It would.
To not be sure who was comforting you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And sometimes his aunt would pretend to be his mom because maybe his mom wasn't there or whatever. So he was never sure.
Oh, that's mean.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
It's kind, but in a way, yeah, it's mean.
I know they probably intended it to be kind, but that's effed up, man.
Right. Yeah, it's like liberalism. They meant to be nice.
Yeah, it's meant to be nice, but
then they
not.
fucked everything up.
Yeah. And here we are, I look at that stuff because he wrote it somewhere, because it was published in 1938. Who goes there? And then he wrote it over a period of time. And from what I've learned, and I just found out for sure today, that Frozen Hell has an additional 45 pages of the story. And I'm like, yeah, I want to read that. I want to read it. Because I found that fascinating, because because I went through the synopsis today, reading the synopsis, and I'm like, I'm reading the synopsis to John Carpenter's The Thing for the better part of it.
Right.
That's how well he did it.
Yeah.
And what he did is he mixed the element, and I didn't mention this during the show this morning, Don, I forgot, is he always wanted to do an Agatha Christie mystery. And so what you got with his thing is the mixture of John Campbell's book and Agatha Christie's, and there were none.
Christie, yeah.
Yeah, it's the ultimate nobody leave this room climax.
Yeah, it's like, because everybody dies at the end of the book.
But it's also, it has that nobody leave this room element that's in every Agatha Christie movie.
Because
we're all
you can't trust it.
This.
You might be the killer, so they travel in groups.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So What are some of the other classic horror sci-fi books that you liked?
Big fan of I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. Which I'm sure Don's familiar with, Vampire Guy.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that spawned so much. I mean, it spawned the zombie genre and all the rest.
Yeah, Last Man on Earth was the first adaptation, and I got to tell you, of all of them, that's my favorite.
It's the best one. I'll tell you, when I was a kid, it was Saturday Matinee, man. Don will remember that. You went to Saturday Matinee, and it was all kids, and you all went nuts because there were no adults there supervising you, and the ushers were teenagers, and they were afraid of you. So,
Peanut Gallery.
I went to a double bill, and the first movie was the most boring British science fiction movie you can possibly imagine. I can't remember the name of it.
Triffids.
It was so dull. All the kids
was
left.
it Triffids?
Huh? Dave of the Triffids.
Because that's the same.
No, it wasn't Day of the Triffids. It wasn't. It was really tedious. It was like adults talking, and
a talking head story. Yeah, those.
Oh yeah, it was awful. So all the kids left. I was literally the only kid in this like 1,500 seat theater when Last Man on Earth came on. It scared the shit out of me, and I loved
Morgan. Morgan.
Neville.
Yeah, I love the fact that they kept the premise from the book, which is he's the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's not in it is when he comes out with a handgun in each hand to start shooting them because he's just so pissed off, even though he knows it's not going to do any good. But the thing is at the end of the movie, I realize I'm like the only one here, right? And I get up to leave, and in the back row, the theater owner was sitting there. And as I pass, he says, "That was a hell of a movie, wasn't it, kid?"
Well, I'll tell you, you talk about one that actually two movies that stuck with me. The first one was the original Night of the Living Dead. Now, I was going to college at California State Teachers College, which is below Pittsburgh, okay? And they had filmed most of that in that area.
Right.
All right.
It's the Monroeville Mall.
Yeah. And let me tell you what, when I walked back to my dorm house that night, and I was on foot, man, I'm looking around in the shadows. But the other one you may laugh at, but honest to God, Phantasm. Originally on HBO.
That scared the crap out of me.
That's a disturbing movie.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, if you guys, I know you remember it. There was a movie that came out in 1974 that the trailer scared me so bad I wouldn't go see it in the movie theater. It's Alive. The Davises.
That's a nasty
baby. Movie. The problem with the Davises baby is it's alive. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out.
I'll tell you, the first time I loved monster movies when I was a kid, never gave me nightmares. My parents always worried, they give me nightmares. Never gave me nightmares because I knew it was fantasy. But again, another Saturday Matinee. And the double bill at this Saturday Matinee was a Jack Lemmon comedy. They just showed anything, right?
Whatever. They don't have to thematically have anything in common.
And the second movie was Failsafe.
Oh, yeah.
And this is in the middle of, this is, we're duck and cover at school. We're air raiding at school,
They were still doing it when I was a kid, dude.
So they're showing us this Failsafe. It's black and white. It's a lot of adults talking. We're kids. We're screaming, yelling. We're throwing jujubes at the screen and, not really paying any attention. And then as the movie goes on, it begins to dawn on all of us what this is about. And we start following the story. And at the end of that movie, man, you could hear a pin drop. And we left every kid left there completely freaked out. I had nightmares for weeks. So that's
just
the scariest movie I ever
imagine
saw.
the hubris, though, of teaching grade school kids to get under your desk. That'll protect you from an H-bomb. Oh, yeah.
Well, you want to hear something dark. You know what my school finally did when they realized, well, the building would collapse and kill us all. If we go outside, we'll die in the radiation blast. So they sent us all home with a piece of paper, and our moms were supposed to write down what time we got home to see if from first warning to the bomb dropping, we'd have time to die at home.
I told
when I hear people going, climate change, global warming, it's like, screw you. We were facing nuclear annihilation.
Nuclear annihilation. It's like in the military, we have what's referred to as NBC training, nuclear, biological, and chemical. And we watched that little film strip made, I think, in the 50s, and shows how to survive an atomic blast as a soldier. And after the film strip was done, I raised my hand, and the instructor knew I was going to cause problems, and I did. I stood up and I said, he's still going to die. A horrible, horrible death where his guts will liquefy and his blood will come through the pores of his skin and he'll go blind and it will be the worst pain ever humanly imaginable. I will stand up and cross my arms and face that blast and just let it take me before I do that. And he goes, but the Army might need you to do something. Like, I love the military, but fuck you. That's 15. I know, Don. He still keeps a tally on how many times I drop the F-bomb, Chuck.
I'm trying to clean his act up, Chuck.
Oh, good.
It's really been tough.
Good
trying his best. But there's a movie, and I don't know if either of you remember this film. It came out in '67, and it was a film that scared the shit out of me. I went to the drive-in with my brother Steven, and I went to see two films. The new film, which was Cat o' Nine Tails, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But then the second film was an older film, like about 4 years older, I think, 3 years older, called The Shuttered Room. And it's got Gig Young, Oliver Reed, and fucking Carol Lindley, if you remember her. Had a crush on her for years.
Carol Lindley?
Yeah, Carol Lindley. A gorgeous blonde. And what freaked me out about that movie was you were from the perspective of whatever monster was behind those doors.
Right.
Moving around all the time. And that, as a kid, that freaked me out, being in the POV. And that's why Jaws, as a kid, scared me. Anytime you were at the POV of whatever it was going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Freaked me out as a kid. And that is a great little B horror film. It came out in 1967, The Shuttered Room. And I hated for years that the little hole in the door where it had the little cages on it around it, and you would open the thing. Fuck that. I wouldn't go anywhere near those because of that fucking movie. That scared me.
Well, and it was another adaptation of Matheson's work, but the Omega Man. Now that with Charles
Omega Man was another remake of the readaptation of the I just forgot the name.
I Am Legend, yeah.
I Am Legend. And I really like that film, though. Chuck Heston is great in that film. The first 20 minutes of that movie, you got everything you needed to know. Again, this goes back to what we were talking about. Everything you needed to know about the rest of the film is right there in the first 20 minutes.
Right. And for some reason, where he's driving down the street and he sees a shadow moving across some office building windows, he slams on the brake and splatters the building with his submachine gun. I thought, I'm going to like this movie. I think
and he had a grease gun, didn't he?
No, it was Swedish K.
Oh, it was a Swedish K.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I got to watch that again. I got to introduce Anima. Anima, by the way, if you met her at the beginning of the show before we started, that's my girlfriend.
Oh.
Yeah. She's Austrian and likes me for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
She goes, there's something so sweet about you.
She's still vicious to see your peppers.
Yes. Where are your papers? She's awesome. And she's getting introduced to a lot of these films now. And she's so grateful. I mean, she says she is, and I believe her, that the stuff that Don and I talk about and that Keith and I talk about, she's finding a lot of this so amazing. And she's catching up on all these old war films and stuff that I told her that are good. And that's what our date night is just watching old movies and TV shows that were done well.
Have you showed her the Still Helmet?
Still Helmet is on my hard drive, but no. I needed to get her through the modern war films, everything since the 70s. I want her to watch the Bridge over the Remagen. Yeah, with the movie Bridge Too Far, which is one of my favorite war films of all time. Has one of the best lines. Do you remember what it is, Chuck? Or
No.
you know, it's when Anthony Hopkins is there at that building, and the Germans want them to surrender.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
the German says, "We have come to discuss options of surrender." And Anthony Hopkins whispers to his XO, either they can go to hell or fuck them or something like that. And the Englishman turns around and says, "I'm sorry, we don't have the provisions to take you prisoner. Thank you." And the German gets this confused look on his face, like, "I was okay," and he just walks away. Just one of my favorite freaking movies, and he had everybody: James Caan, Sean Connery, Anthony Hopkins, Olivier, Elliot Gould, Robert Redford in that one scene going across the river doing the Hail Mary moment where they're afraid they're going to die in the water, and they're just chanting Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. What a great scene!
Yeah,
I love that movie.
That is a good movie.
And she has not seen that one yet. I have that on the list of things for us to watch. But I think that, because she has a great, and this is what I love about her. One of the many things I love about her, she is so passionate about military. She's like learned all these things from me, teaching her like, we watch this stupid show called Echo 3 on Apple Plus. Have you seen it?
No.
Yeah, don't.
Okay.
And it's just garbage. They don't know how to write soldiers. And it's from the guy who wrote The Hurt Locker. And I'm like, well, that right there, because I went with all my vet buddies to go see that movie, and we laughed our asses off at it. It's like, you don't go outside the wire without permission. It's just asking for death. Like, you hear stories about that, like with Vietnam, where guys will wander out into the villages and shit. You could get away with that in the jungle. You don't get away with that in the middle of just an isolated desert town, village, or fob, And the guy's supposed to be tier 1 operators for the Navy SEALs. They don't get along, and I'm like, okay, that's bullshit. They're pros, military pros get along when they need to do their job.
Anima wants you to knock the shit off talking about it.
She's waving you off, man.
Stop, Gary, stop. Don't do it. It's too late, baby. I'm doing it. And but the thing that really set me off, and Don knows I said this right from the get-go with the trailer, they cut to Luke Evans walking forward with an M4, Satmod M4, and he's got his hand all the way out on the grip. And I'm like, nobody that's trained with a weapon holds a weapon like that. Nobody.
No.
Nobody. Because you want your grip up close to the magazine. If you don't have a pistol grip, you're getting right up on the magazine because you want absolute control for turning of your weapon. And it just looks so sloppy. They didn't put any effort into it. It's that Bowles guy that wrote Hurt Locker. God, that movie is dumb.
Well, kind of on the same subject, I wanted to ask Don. My old mailman was a Marine. He was there for Tet. And he told me that the movie he liked best, that was closest to his experience, was Full Metal Jacket. Is there a Vietnam War movie that was close to your experience that you can look at and go, yeah, they got it right?
Well, actually, a couple. Now,
Firebase Gloria.
Firebase Gloria. Oh my God.
Because that's one of his favorite movies. I know.
You're going to crack up. But the Green Beret with John Wayne.
Yeah.
One scene in it. One scene. And that, because most of that movie was horse shit. Okay.
Right.
But the scene where the firebase got overrun.
Right.
I knew that was going to be it. Yep.
No, that's an awesome scene.
My camp got overrun. Okay. And boy, I'll tell you what, I was in a 9-man team, and the rest were Vietnamese, just nine Americans, 9 GIs. And that was a scary son of a bitch. It was in the middle of Nixon's Vietnamization policy. All the Marines were gone. I was up on the DMZ, Chuck.
Wow.
All the Marines were gone. The 101st was gone. The 5th Mech was gone. It was a lonely place to be. And the other one is Firebase Gloria.
I love Firebase Gloria.
Because we talk about that movie. I love that movie too. It's really good.
These were bad Marines.
Good, and by the way, Adam Baldwin, the only good Baldwin, posted the other day, got into a little I wouldn't call it an argument, but a debate over Stanley Kubrick, because he called Stanley Kubrick a dick.
Yeah.
And
he
he
was.
goes, and he says, no, I'm not insulting him. He was a proud dick. He referred to himself as a dick. And dicks are people who don't take shit off others and absolutely stand up for what they believe in. And he said something that I had never considered before, Don. He said Kubrick may have been anti-war, but he made a pro-soldier film.
Right.
With Full Metal Jacket, whereas Oliver Stone was anti-soldier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I
was
can
my
see that.
beef. Because I work for Dale Dye, and I told Dale, I said, I have a real problem with that last fucking line that he delivers. We flew 1,000 miles to fight the enemy, and the enemy was us. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fuck you, Oliver Stone, you commie prick.
Well, I mean, any good war movie is an anti-war movie. Nobody likes
it.
war.
Exactly. If you show war the way it really is, combat, and I do refer to Black Hawk Down as a war film, even though I have a problem with the writing on that one, because it's the subtitle of the story, Black Hawk Down, is No Man Left Behind. And what do they do at the end of the movie? They left the guy behind.
Right.
I'm like, come on, Ridley. Come on.
No, they should have settled that hash
in the film, right there in the film. It should have been dealt with. But I still love the film because it is one of the most intense films for close quarter combat that you'll see. Saving Private Ryan has some great moments. And by the way, all the great moments in Saving Private Ryan are the combat scenes, and they were all directed by Dale Dye. He gets no credit for it, but
the rest of the movie's crap.
He's so stupid. Stop. Hey, I'm going to talk full voice in German-occupied France. I want you to stop saluting the captain. You're going to get him killed by a sniper. My response was, maybe he should paint the captain's bars off his helmet.
Yeah. Maybe. Also, I'm going to just say whatever I want to my commanding officer on D-Day. Now, you got shot in the head for that shit on D-Day.
Well, this is two films I criticized for shit like that. Fury pissed me off because the scene where the guy that plays Punisher starts talking about he's going to rape the women.
Right.
Brad Pitt's character in real life, if that were a real tank commander, would have shot him where he stood.
Yeah. Yeah.
He would have seen it as his duty to shoot him because he's a wild animal. And I can't have that. That's not our job. I'm not going to allow that to happen. That pissed me off. And you see little things like that in other films. It just drive me crazy. But in the movie Hurt Locker, where you have this guy, he's the EOD specialist, comes in and he starts talking shit to his fucking commanding officer in front of everybody. And that would never happen. And I know this would never happen because I've seen NCOs and officers smoke the shit out of guys for talking back to them. And he'll do it right in front of everybody. You've lost the privilege of rank. I'm going to smoke the shit out of you in front of everybody. I'm going to drop you.
It's one thing. It's one thing when you're standing down to have somebody talk shit to you. But when you're in the field, that will get somebody a sore jaw and loose teeth.
Yep.
Right.
If not more.
More.
And I was a goddamn NCO. And Gary, I think you probably read that into me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tolerate that shit for an iota.
Right.
You just talk back to me, It's like no. I didn't catch that last one, Martin. Would you put that back up? I want to read that. Shouldn't they all look the same? This is Krampus Jeebus, one of our regulars. I love this guy. Shouldn't they all look the same and have the rank in infrared or only? Are you talking Predator? Shut up, Krampus. Go back to smoking, you bong. You'll like this one because he's always got that bong in his hand when he joins us. And I said, when you see him stick his arm out of a car while he's driving, it's not to enjoy the wind, it's to dry his bong out. He's awesome. We've got a great crew of people that watch our show on a regular basis. There are our family that watch, our regular audience, and I love interacting with them. They're great. I really haven't today. Martin, did we get anything that was got you starred? Oh,
No.
yes, that's
What?
who it was. In the movie with Val Kilmer, when Mamet threatened him, he threatened him with Emilio Estevez. That was who he threatened him with. This is firsthand guy that witnessed it happening. Said that Val just shut the hell up and did the scene.
Which brings us to Repo Man.
Oh my God, Repo Man. Great, one of the greatest soundtracks to a movie ever.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, what a great movie.
Yep.
The ending when that actor
Harry Dean Stanton. I loved
Harry
him
Dean's
in
great.
that.
Him and Tracy Walter.
But Tracy Walter, that's the guy. He played Frog on that Western series.
Right. But he talks about how the flying saucers are from the future, man.
Yeah. I love that movie. God, what a great movie. Moral of the story, Gary always comes back from his missions alone. No, shut up.
Repo Man is like historic because it was the first straight to VHS hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a hit. It really was.
Yeah, it was a hit.
And absolutely one of the greatest soundtracks, rock soundtracks of a movie ever.
Yeah.
And in
Punk
fact,
rock. It was all
punk rock.
Yeah.
I have never been without a copy of that.
Yep.
I usually keep, just like with Who Goes There, the book, I always keep 3 copies, so I'm never without it. I have it on my phone. Up in the cloud is what it is. I put it up on the cloud, so I always have access to it. I'll have a hard copy, and then I'll have a digital copy on my computer. So when I'm working, I can just throw on the soundtrack. What a great soundtrack! Black Flag. I was a big Black Flag fan, man. It's like when you start talking.
I thought you said you started to say I was a big Black Flag man.
Black Flag. Oh my
That's
God.
what it sounded like, Gary.
No, it's not what I said.
Well, we'll pretend we thought that's what you said. So.
Okay.
We want to cancel you. This is the moment. So remember this.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh, this was started too. That Krampus Jeebus said, "Backdoor Gary's Aspergers."
Oh, God.
And I have videos for that, so I got to make up for it. Here is this is one video for all the backdoor comments today that I didn't play videos for.
Open your back door, baby. Loosen your hinges, I'll show you my key.
If you've not seen that show, Chuck, I highly recommend it. Vox Machina. That shit's funny.
I'll take a look.
Yeah, it's like I've been watching a lot of shows. I watch Yellowstone because I consider the best screenwriter for television living right now, working on TV, is Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. And he's only written one thing I thought was crap, and I think it's because they wrote over him. He wrote the initial script, and then other people jumped in and wrote shit, and he still had
my British buddy Andrew's out there. I just saw you flash, pal. How you doing? Hope it's hanging good.
Oh, let me get in there. See who this was. Andrews. I see Shanatsky. Shanatsky is here. I'm looking for Andrews. I'm not seeing him. Oh, there. Andy Morrow. Oh, yeah. I saw him earlier. Yeah, Andy Morrow. Yeah, he's the British gentleman who's been watching our show. Thanks to Don. I like hanging out with Don. Don and I have a blast. At least I'm having a blast. I can't claim anybody else is having fun, but I'm having a blast.
Well, you've been causing me to brush up on my math, Gary.
Well, I tell you, because I'm dead serious about the whole nerds thing. And he asked me today, "Do you think I'm really a nerd?" I went, "Yeah, you're a Poindexter. You're a nerd." If you know anything about Star Trek or classic sci-fi like The Thing, you're a nerd.
Yeah. I prefer the word enthusiast.
Enthusiast. Actually, I know one of my friends. I just forgot his name. He wrote the Empire Strikes Back novel. Oh my God, drawn a blank. Anyway, he refuses to come on the show because we have the word nerds in it.
Huh. Well,
because he doesn't like that nerd word. He doesn't like it. And I'm like, that's odd. You are one.
Ryder Winham?
No, Martin.
Oh.
Kylock.
How'd you doing, Martin? How'd you doing?
I'm doing barely.
Yeah, I made a joke today, and it took him a minute to figure out the joke I made. I said, all my Hispanic friends have trouble with the name Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and he goes, what? Okay.
I have a lot of friends in Argentina. I was down in Buenos Aires years ago, and one of them was saying, "I don't understand English." He goes, "You have the word sheet and sheet," and he meant shit and sheet.
Yeah, right.
I said, "No, it's not sheet and sheet. It's shit and sheet." And he goes, "It's the same word."
Oh my God. And also, going off with the colorful metaphors of the F-bomb, when I was in the Army, I realized I had become a professional at using that word when I said an entire sentence that was nothing but variations of that word. I said nothing else. And the guy just looked at me and he goes, "I'm in awe, dude. You didn't say any word other than that word. How did you do that?"
And you got a predicate, a subject, a
everything.
verb,
It was just a string of F words. I think you'll like this too, because you grew up. I mean, both you guys are just a little older than me. And,
you can be a gunslinger with that word,
Right. But the show Land of the Lost, right?
Yeah.
So we're out doing FTX, and it was raining like a mother. And everybody's wearing their poncho liners and standing around in this just Missouri mud and rain. And it's dark and gray. And there's this tower above us. And the drill sergeants and senior NCOs are all in that tower. And they didn't see me coming up around up the hill that goes right into the back of this thing. So I'm standing right behind them. And they're like commenting on my guys. And they're like, "I don't know what to describe this as. This is just," and I said, "kind of like a wet tossed salad with some spinach." And they just turned and looked at me and said, "Get out of here." I was always vexing the NCOs.
I had another question for Don. I mean, you were in Vietnam late in the game. Did they send you right there?
Twice.
So you enlisted and they sent you right to Vietnam?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I was in Okinawa.
Okay.
First, and then I TDY'd, temporary duty. We were on some operations in and out, and not so much out as in. And then I permanent change of station to Vietnam.
Okay. Yeah, because I had a buddy in high school, and I
was in. Excuse me. That's
Bailey.
Bailey the Beagle. Bailey. Hutch.
Beagle Bailey.
Beagle Bailey.
Chuck.
Beagle Bailey.
I love that. Well, we got to close up, Don. What do you want to talk about last before we go? We got 1 minute for wrap.
Oh my God, you're right. We do. Oh, I lost my time there.
Chuck, you got to come back, man. You got to come back.
Definitely. Whatever I was going to say, it slipped out of my mind.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm not going to be able to thank the chat, but you guys know who you are. You're our regulars. We love you. Everybody in Radio Land, I'm glad you guys are listening. I hope
Chuck, a real pleasure, buddy.
Oh, it was fun talking to you, Don. I had a good time.
Chuck motherfucking Dixon. If you're not reading his comics, you're an idiot. No, I'm not going to say that, but you're ill-informed. Read his comics. Some of the best writing. Read Levon. Go check his page out on Amazon. I'm telling you, it's worthwhile. Great writer, prolific, and you know what? As a human being, he's pretty okay.
Yeah, I do all right. I try.
And I'm so glad to call you a friend, Chuck. I love you and Graham. You guys are awesome.
Well, thank you.
No, you bet. You're welcome.
Been a lot of fun, Chuck. A lot of fun, buddy.
No,
come back soon, please.
Time. We'll do this again for sure.
Absolutely. So anyway, that's it for us, guys. Chanel, take the show away. Let's end it.